a large amount of DMT in your brain at that time too. So that kind of, ties in with the concept of state-specific memory there.
That I bet is the answer, because believe me, I mean, this, it's people on sort of outside of my life can't really, it's not possible to communicate the impact of these experiences, but it's unbelievably huge. And hearing that voice crying out and knowing that I couldn't stop running away from it, even though I didn't want to because I was just so scared, was an overwhelmingly powerful and devastating experience. Really, it was almost like leaving somebody to drown. That's how it felt. And yet, this being, whoever it was more powerful than I was by far, it would seem to me. Well, Rick, let's go on now and talk a little bit about your current work and your documentary and what exactly you're doing there.
Yeah, well, so we started so we're kind of in the process of, filming a documentary about DMT. There's going to be 3 filmings. One took place in New Mexico last month. There's going to be one in the San Francisco Bay Area on the end of March, and also one and there's also going to be one in New York City in May probably. And if we're able, to gather enough, money together, we will try and do a, filming in Peru as well. It's going to be taking as broad a view as possible on DMT, both in terms of from the scientific point of view, but also, we're going to be very interested in looking at ayahuasca, which is a combination of plants from the Amazon, one of which contains DMT. And
Terence McKenna was, of course, very, very famous for his work in ayahuasca, and I know that you knew him. And
right. Yeah. He was, quite a, inspirational, an inspirational, figure, for me and for the research. Well, yeah, so we're going to be looking at DMT, both as a pure, compound in the body and as a, research tool. And also, we're going to be looking, at ayahuasca as well. So we're going to be taking, so we're going to be looking at it from the point of view, from the perspectives of, science, biology and, psychiatry, also from anthropology, from religious, sorts of perspectives. We're going to be interviewing you as well, in terms of its role, perhaps in the abduction, phenomena, the experience of, contact with non-corporeal, discarnate spiritual entities.
There's a school of thought among abductees that it might not even be, first of all, whether or not it's a close encounter with people from another planet is something that seems far in the past to me. I guess it may be true, but I always think of it in so many different ways now. But there's a group of people who are very convinced that it's drug-induced, that it was done to us, that it is not something that comes out naturally at all, or is induced by the beings, that the beings come about because of that we were given drugs. And there's an undercurrent of this that says that because I published my book War Day and angered the Reagan administration, that Brent Scowcroft, I think, is the one they always claim, had this done to me in order to basically to drive me insane and to discredit me at the same time, which, of course, it worked in that I am totally discredited. I'm the communion man, Mr. Rectal Probe. I mean, I hardly could be more discredited than I am. And that seems to me to be an open question. I don't know. I mean, some of the most extraordinary experiences I had there involved human beings, and when I was in these situations where I was being forced to have sexual relationships with some of these entities, which happened quite a bit. Often there were people in military uniforms in the room at the same time. So
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Well, I think you still kind of need to wonder who's kind of issuing the marching orders here.
Well, yeah.
So who's telling the military to do this, and for what reason? If indeed, that is a plausible hypothesis or not.
Who knows if it is? I mean, it's so strange, and my own best guess is that there are parallel universes, that there is a reality, another reality here, whether it's a spiritual reality or another physical reality with its own reference to physics and to to nature and to experience. I don't know. Or maybe there are many. Maybe the many worlds theory is true. Maybe maybe we've spun off 2 or 3 million just by having this conversation.
Well, I think so. And people have been describing these sorts of experiences, for tens of thousands of years. It isn't a new phenomenon.
No, it's not. And in fact, its best focus is in the past, I think, not in the present. The best focus I know of is in the fairy faith of Northern Europe, in the descriptions of encounters and contacts that took place there. Those are very pure, and they are, I think, the business of the dancing in circles and the movement through time. I remember doing that when I was a child with a group of other people, other children, under the supervision of one of these strange gray beings. So I think, and you look at the old music of the lullabies of that period. Go away, Peary fairies, come down, bonny angels, to our little room. I think that's a phrase from one of those. The Peary fairies could easily be the big-eyed monsters that we see.
Yeah, well, there clearly are descriptions for tens of, thousands of years of these spiritual beings. Like I've been doing a lot of study of the Hebrew Bible for the last, 10 or 12 years or so. And, it's replete with angels and, demons and the like. I think that, kind of beyond, believing in these things is more the issue of, how do you interact with them, and, how do you, what kind of questions do you ask them, and, how do you get, prepared to interact with them when they do come your way. So in some ways it, kind of boils down, to some old, fashioned, kinds of things, like being a very good person, being pure, those kinds of things.
Seems to be
in order to, in order to be able to interact, with the highest level entities in the most sophisticated way possible.
Now, why do you bring up in that particular way the word purity? It's very interesting because this has been an absolutely incredibly important feature of my experience with them, that they almost need this. You have to be very, very honest and a good person in yourself in order to interact with them. How do you, and I'm fascinated that you bring that up as well. It kind of boils down to the issue of inner work. Are you a clean, vessel? Do you have a bunch of egoistic, kind of greedy, angry things going on in your mind? If that's the case, those are the kinds of beings or the kinds of dynamic interactions that are going to occur between you and the beings. If you're a generous and, selfless and open-minded and helpful kind person, then I think the chances are
are greater, that you'll be able to interact with, beings or be encountered, by beings that deal in those kinds of currencies instead.
In that level. Rick, I would like to thank you so much for being with us on Dreamland. Rick is going to be talking with William Henry as well about the way this relates to the past. And as you can hear, that's a profound conversation. Don't miss it. Next up